Okay, welcome back. I owe you guys an update about how my deer hunting loads worked this year. In our last couple videos, we worked up a 6.5 Grendel load with the 120 grain Speer Gold Dot and Alliant AR comp. That was kind of my primary load. It's the one I was going to hit the woods with first. And then later I decided to work up a second one in 6mm arc using the 90 grain Sierra Game Changer with Hodgdon lever evolution. So I was able to end up getting 2 deer with the 6.5 Grendel load, the 120 grain Speer Gold Dot. It performed really well. Then I switched over to the 6mm arc, and unfortunately I just didn't have any more shot opportunities. So we didn't get one with the arc, which kind of bummed me out. I was really hunting pretty hard, spent like 3 straight days in the woods with the arc and just did not have the opportunity that I needed. So last year I used 6.5 Creedmoor with the 140 grain Gold Dot, and it did really well, which is why I decided to stick with the Gold Dots this year in the Grendel, the 120 grainer. If you missed those videos, this was a really good combination. Shot really nicely in my 18-inch Faxon barrel. So I've got some pictures and some video and stuff that I want to show you after I skin the deer out. This is pretty gruesome stuff, so you've been warned. Things are about to get nasty. So here's the buck right here, a pretty decent 8-point. It was a young deer, a 2.5 or 3.5-year-old buck. He would have been a giant in a couple years, but I saw how wide he was and just decided to go ahead and shoot him. I hadn't done much scouting this year, so wasn't sure what was out there. So, okay, let's talk about the actual bullet performance. So the doe, so it was a doe and a buck. Did I mention that? I'm getting myself all confused. The doe was the first one I shot. The first shot was totally stupid. She was moving when I shot, and the first shot was right in the ass. That bullet went in and completely broke the femur in half. What you're seeing here was after I had already deboned that hind quarter, or most of it. Then I got down to see where that bone was broken in half like that, and I really thought I was going to be able to find the bullet, but that particular bullet, I was never able to find it. The hind quarter on the other side was fine. Meat wasn't damaged or anything, so I don't think the bullet exited, but I was not able to find the bullet. I did end up finding one bullet from the buck, so we'll have a look at that guy here in just a second. But first of all, the doe. First shot, completely stupid shot. Well, she ended up going down and just laying there, and I could tell she was still alive. And I didn't have a clear shot to shoot again. So I started moving down the hill, trying to find an angle where I could get an open shot to put another bullet into her. And eventually, once I got down the hill, she had actually stood up, and the second shot was right on the money. At this point, I'd moved down so much, the deer was above me quite a bit. So it went in a little bit low, got the lungs, got the heart, and then got the other lung. So she dropped like a rock. She was dead before she hit the ground. So she drops and slides down the hill like 30 or 40 yards, extremely steep on that side of the hill. And I think the buck is gone. So I work my way up the hill toward her, and this buck actually comes over to the edge and looks down at me. She must have been hot or something, because this guy was totally focused on her. He didn't care about me whatsoever. So when he was looking down at me, he was slightly quartered, but basically facing right at me. But I had a really good shot to tuck it like right in front of his shoulder. And I know how the Gold Dots perform. I knew the bullet was going to hold together and give me good penetration. So I ended up taking the shot. It's a marginal shot, I'll admit to that. But I felt pretty good about the shot. And at this point, he's facing me, and that's whenever I really got a better look at his width and all of that, and decided to just go ahead and shoot him. Because whenever I'd seen him earlier, it was just from the sides, and his tines were a little bit short and stuff. I was like, I'm going to let that guy walk. But once he was up above me, looking down the hill at me, I saw how wide he was and decided to take the shot. So I shot him. He ran about maybe 30 yards around the hill and crashed dead. Now the path of this bullet was really interesting because I shot him, in front of the shoulder on the right-hand side, and I was expecting for it to, just go in and plow through all of the vitals, but it ended up breaking 2 ribs completely in half right at the entrance. And I think the first rib kind of deflected it because all of the damage was primarily on the right-hand side of his body. Like that right-hand lung was completely and totally liquefied, like it was gone. So massive damage to that lung. and I didn't see any exit. So I thought for sure I'd be able to recover this bullet. So whenever I was gutting him out, I was looking pretty hard, couldn't find anything, ended up skinning him out and getting the meat off, and still could not find the bullet. So I ended up finding the bullet in the right side back strap and didn't find it until we were processing the deer. It happened live on Twitch. I'm like, oh hey, here's a bullet. I cannot believe how well this bullet held together. The recovered weight was 102.7, and it only lost one pedal from what I can tell. It looks like it lost one pedal. So that is extremely good expansion. He wasn't far away. Like, he was maybe about 45 to 50 yards above me, but this is pretty dang good expansion. And the fact that the bullet could hold together this well after plowing through those two ribs just kind of blows my mind and makes me feel really good about these Gold Dots. I mean, you know, I was already a fan, and this just sold me even more. I'd love to know what a cup and core bullet like maybe a Sierra Game Changer would have done in this situation. I feel certain the deer would have been dead, but I think, you know, after that first big rib, that bullet's going to be in pieces. So I don't know. I feel really bad about that first shot. Like, I cannot believe I shot at her while she was kind of trotting away a little bit. Like, she wasn't in a full run, but she was moving. I knew better. You do not shoot at a moving deer. But the second shot put it right where I wanted, and she dropped. And this buck, I put the bullet where I wanted. It did some unexpected things in there, but it was still a good shot. He was dead within a couple seconds and only went 30 yards, 40 yards, maybe, you know, something like that. This all happened super quick because, so it happened on Monday. So our season opened on Saturday. I hunted Saturday and Sunday pretty hard. And the only opportunity I had was a much smaller buck than this that I decided to pass up. So after getting skunked that first weekend, I was feeling a little bit depressed, but I got home pretty early on Monday after work, like at 4:45, which only gave me like 45 minutes of daylight. So I came in, grabbed one camera and headed out there. And I'm actually hunting right on my shooting range. Like, I was sitting up the hill about 40 or 50 yards from my 100-yard target. And these deer were on the opposite hillside. I am totally convinced that these deer stood there and watched me walk all the way out there, up the hill, and sit down. Because the leaves were really dry, I would have heard them coming. Especially because, you know, I think he was chasing her. So they would have been making a ton of racket. But I get up there, sit down, and like 5 minutes later, the doe starts blowing at me from the opposite hillside. And they were in the thick stuff. It took me forever to try and find them. And I actually saw the buck first. And that's when I was talking about, like, I could see his side profile. I could see the tines were, you know, pretty short. And I thought it actually might be the buck I had seen on Saturday. So my focus really shifted to the doe. Like, I was more focused on, you know, finding a good shot and getting a good shot on that doe. And I never actually saw her until she took off kind of trotting away. But they just stood there and stood there. I mean, it was like 15 minutes. You know, the stupid deer won't quit blowing, but I also can't see where it's at. And I guess once she started moving, you know, I just had that desperation of finally, you know, getting eyes on her, and just took a bad shot. It was a dumb shot. It's been a few years since I've done something that dumb, so maybe it was just, you know, it was time for a reminder, and hopefully I'll never do that again. So I think that's it. Just, you know, wanted to give you guys an update. I had promised to give you one, so here it is. I'm sorry I didn't get it on film. Like I said, I just got home from work and had 45 minutes. I had very little hope of actually seeing anything or getting any shots. I had just been all weekend in the woods and had no luck, so 45 minutes after work, I wasn't expecting much, but it all happens fast. So that's where we'll leave it. Hopefully these freaking Gold Dots get back into stock so we can start buying them again, because I love them. They are definitely my bullet of choice when it comes to shooting deer. So, all right, see you guys next time.